Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. So, in our continuing episodes where we bring you various viewpoints of people who have faced challenges in their lives and how they've overcome them, we've got a very interesting guy coming on the podcast today. He is a neurodivergent, he is non binary, he is the lead singer in a glam rock band, and he's going to explain to us from his perspective what glam rock is. He's going to talk about challenges he faced as a young man with OCD, with anxiety, with epilepsy, and how he's kind of progressed through his life. So, without further ado, let's bring Jaymes on to the podcast. All right. So, Jaymes, welcome to Salty Ginger Talk. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And tell our audience a little bit of, well, let me do this. Let me read, so we get contacted by different folks, and we found your profile very interesting because you are out of the norm for the typical podcast guest that we get. And we've been very much looking forward to this conversation. So, the bio that we got from Jaymes is I'm a non binary, not neurodivergent, I apologize, glam rock singer and poet with a bit of dabbling in acting and modeling. A few years ago, my lifelong mental health struggles and their physical consequences reached an all time low, and being forced to overcome that put me on a path to becoming the best version of myself I've ever been. So that's a very interesting background to us, and something that we think our listeners can get a lot of value out of hearing your story and hear you talk about those subjects. So we're very excited to have you on the podcast, and we were hoping you could do just a brief intro of yourself, what you want people to know about you briefly, and then we can just jump into a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you covered most of it, but yeah, the band I'm a front man for is called Hot Apollo. We're sparkly, loud, and shiny. We're glorious. You can check us out on Spotify or Apple or Bandcamp or wherever. Just HOTAPOLLO. And yeah, socials everywhere on the internet. Search for Hot Apollo, you'll find us. And yeah, that's about it. It's kind of my passion, my life's work. So I'm very proud of it, and proud to be where I am now.
Nice. What is glam rock? Well, how do you define that
Uh,
genre?
to me, I guess it's kind of like basically putting like theater or like cinematic vibes into music. Just because like people like you can listen to like amazing music wherever you are. Everyone has like the world's like combined wealth of music in their phones in their pockets at all times. But like if you're gonna get your money together and like pick out your friends and go to a show and make like a night out of it, like I think it should be like an experience for as many senses as possible. So I really try to like make it worth everyone's while, make a party out of it, and make a huge production. It should feel like it shouldn't feel like listening to your phone. It should feel like you're out there, you're like in a movie. Is kind of the vibe I'm trying to get across.
Got it. So there's a lot more to it than just I'm not saying the music's not important, but there's a lot more to it than just the music. I think I heard you just say.
Yeah, that's what glam rock means to me.
Yeah. Excellent. The first thing that pops into my head, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I'm 53, so there's a historical context of this too, is Kiss. Kiss to me would be glam rock, right? They put on a show. They don't just play music, they put on a show.
Yeah, no, I remember my brother's guitar teacher got me into them when I was a kid, and like I was like they were like one of my favorite bands for like a year or two there, and yeah, I still dig them.
Cool. Yeah. And I'm just trying to give our listeners some context that they can refer to if it's helpful for them. So, anyhow, that's good stuff. Like it. How did you get into music?
Um, Basically, like as far back as I can remember, there were two things I dearly loved: performing and writing. And I kind of, those were like two of my biggest pursuits. Like even when I was like 5, 6, 7, like I got sent to like all like theater and drama camps and stuff like that. And when and like the subjects in school I had the most passion for were creative writing, so that kind of like led me to kind of get more into writing poetry a lot. And I some of my friends eventually started picking up instruments and like starting bands with each other, and they knew I was a really good writer, and so they kind of wanted me to like be part of the band so I could like the lyricist. At the time, as much as I loved singing, they hated hearing me sing, so they didn't want to. They refused. James, no, I know you want to be the singer. No one's ever going to let you be the singer. You have a drum kit. You can keep a beat at least. So why don't you just like play mediocre drums and write awesome lyrics for us? And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll give that a shot. And they're really good musicians, but eventually I realized that there's a difference between being a good musician and like being in a band. Like they are separate but related skill sets. And if all you just want to do is like kind of like jam around with your friends, then you're probably not gonna be in a band for very long. So I kind of had to set out on my own. And I realized I wasn't good enough to audition as a drummer for another band, so I was gonna have to start my own band. And like, if I'm starting my own band, there's no one around to tell me not to sing, so I'm just gonna sing. And through like sheer stubbornness and like practice and just like never stopping singing, I got good at singing. I'm not like a virtuoso. I'm not singing opera, but I've developed a really like solid rock voice that sounds like me, and I'm very proud of that.
Nice. So you said you're the lyricist. Do you write the music as well, or do you only write the lyrics?
The music is I write all the lyrics, but the music is a more collaborative process, and we kind of like take it from like a lot of different angles depending on the song. Um, but yeah, the music is a whole band thing. I'm just I know just enough about guitar and piano to like help like kind of like write a riff or whatever sometimes, but like I'm like my skills on that are very basic. The other members of the band are like virtuoso instrumentalists, like world class.
And that's awesome. Do you find I'm thinking about I've never written a song, I've never written music, I've never done any of those things, so I find it very interesting. Do you find that you write lyrics and then try to come up with music for the lyrics, or do you listen to music and come up with lyrics for the music that you hear?
Both. Often like I will just like write lyrics because they're in my head and I want to get them out. And then like sometimes I'll get like depending on like where we are as a band and what other like commitments we're trying to like fulfill at the time, I'll come to them and be like, guys, I just like wrote this like new song. We gotta like work on it now. And sometimes like one of the other band members will come to me, like Dan, our guitarist, will come up and be like, hey, I've just been like kind of noodling around with this for a bit. Let's do you have anything for it? And like either oh that fits like this thing I had in my head like a week ago, or like no, let me come up with something for it now. Or sometimes we'll just be like sitting around in band practice and like, we'll be tuning up and one of the guys will be just like strumming on something, just like kind of warm up his hands. And I'll be like, yo, what is that? And he's like, it's nothing. And like, no, it's gonna be something like right now. So yeah, any old way you can think of for writing a song, like we've probably done it.
Gotcha. Where does your inspiration come from for the lyrics?
Uh, that's a kind of funny question. I've always kind of felt I'm it doesn't feel as much like inspiration from some like external source or whatever. It feels like I'm just kind of pushing out like into the universe, like whatever is going on in my soul. And so I guess my inspiration is like everything I've ever like lived or seen or related to or anything that's resonated with me, just the all my experiences and passions and like dreams.
So largely from the feelings that you get and want to express based on your life. Is that the
Well,
right way
yeah,
to think
and through
about it?
various lenses. Yeah, there's a lot of my songs have like heavy like fantastical elements to them too. Like I kind of feel like it's do you ever feel that like sometimes the less realistic a work of art is, like the more it's like relatable emotionally? Because that's how I feel a lot. And so often when I'm like trying to get my emotions out there, the uh the most honest way to do it is through something that is obviously completely fictional.
So I'm trying to ask that question again, if you wouldn't mind. I'm not, I want to process it the right way.
Do you ever feel that the works of art that feel the truest to you are the ones that are the most fantastical?
Fantastical.
Like, okay, for instance, I remember like this is something I noticed very early on when I was a kid, and my parents would like watch movies with me, and the and this hasn't like changed at all as I've grown up. My mom in particular would always like pick like more sort of like human like grounded films, of whatever genre, and I'd always gravitate towards like fantasy and sci-fi and adventure and stuff because those to me just felt like more emotionally real. They didn't feel like
Got it.
realistic in like the plot and what is actually happening on screen, but it felt like yes, this is what emotions would look like if you put them into a narrative.
I got it now. So the songs that resonate the most with me are songs I have a visceral reaction to. And so I it probably won't shock you by looking at me, but I'm very left-brained, very kind of straightforward and direct. And so the songs that have like a visceral reaction, for example, I argue that the greatest love song ever written is "Whole Lot of Love" by Led Zeppelin. Like
I love
it's
that
a
line.
it's like it's visceral. You can viscerally feel the emotions they're trying to convey when you listen to that song. At least I can.
You know what? Okay, that's interesting because I've been a pretty big Zeppelin fan. I'm not like an aficionado, but I like their stuff. And the first song that really grabbed me, if I remember correctly, and this was and I looked into more of it, and they do this a lot. Misty Mountain Hop.
Hmm?
And what I took from that song is it's just him like it's a story of a dude like going out for not in the town with a bunch of his friends, but it's presented in the context of a sort of Middle Earth like place, right? You know, but they're still just like doing like normal like dude stuff. And that
Sure,
hit me really
yeah.
hard. And like like what Ramble On, it's like it's a love song, but like again, it's like all Middle Earth because like Robert Plant, like me, was a big old nerd. So it's that like this kind of fusion of like real relatable experiences, but in a kind of supernatural lens.
Yeah, no, I
And
love
that's
that.
that's my favorite kind of storytelling.
Yeah, and so I think that resonates with me, the storytelling part, because when you think about movies or music or art in any way, it's really the artist trying to express something, whether it's a story, whether it's an emotion, whether it's an experience that they've had. They're trying to express it in the way they view it and present that to the rest of the world. And that's not something I have participated much in, but I find it very interesting. And I have a ton of respect for people that are just themselves. That doesn't being your whatever you are is fine with me. I don't like people that try to be something they're not. That really rubs me the wrong way. And so I really appreciate people that are genuine. And you genuine is what it is. Like everybody's a different person, and that's cool. That's cool with me. And I appreciate when people are willing to have those types of conversations with me or be just real straightforward with me about who they are and how they are. And that's the whole point of our podcast is doesn't matter who you are. There's lots of ways that work, and you've got to find the way that works for you. And like in your bio that we read out, it sounds like you have a lot of experience kind of sorting through that stuff and getting to a place in your life that you're happy with and you feel like you're being your best self. And that's very interesting to us. That's why we want to have you on the podcast. And the reason I'm spending time on the music is because I think it probably is a way for you to express some of those things that you've gone through in your life.
Yeah, I know I'd be as as low as my kind of mind has gotten at various points in my life. I know it'd be so much worse if I didn't have that kind of artistic outlet. Like there are a lot of times when I was at my lowest points that like having my art to cling to and as something to express myself in and something at least I could be proud of, even if I was not proud of the person I was at the time, I was still proud of what I was putting out there. Like that really did save my life. And I look around and like I see so many people struggling and like and I feel like so many of them would struggle at least a little bit less if they had some sort of outlet. It doesn't even need to be art, and any sort of pursuit they can like invest themselves in, like sports or I don't know, like like trading cards or something that they can like kind of like find a sense of maybe like some little kind of purpose or even community or anything like that. Anything to sort of like deal with all that's some that emotional like weight and turbulence boiling up inside of them is really like having a sort of pressure release valve. Like it's so immensely important.
Sure. No, I think that's really well said. I think you said that really well. You had talked about being neurodivergent. What does that mean generally? I'm not looking for a dictionary definition, but what does neurodivergent mean?
It's like a very, very broad term, but like the way I always kind of think of it is your mind is sort of, I guess, codifiable as uh like a deviant from the norm. So a lot of people use it to refer to stuff on the sort of ADHD autism spectrum, and I definitely fall clearly on that. In my case, I also have um, OCD and anxiety. I was diagnosed with like both of those like very, very young. The autism around the same time, like all this stuff was like very clear, like basically as soon as I could talk. If not, maybe a little, no, yeah, but yeah, basically as soon as I could talk. Um, and throughout my life, I've kind of learned I can't ignore it, and I definitely can't like try to deny it and repress it. That is trying to do that is responsible for some of my worst times. But I have to embrace it and above all manage it. I've got to be responsible for it, and like it's taken my whole life to figure out a way of living that's worked for me, and I'm still learning. I haven't like got it 100% perfect yet, but I'm pretty comfortable with where I am, and now I'm just kind of always kind of like looking for ways to improve. I mean, as everyone should in always always kind of looking. Okay, I'm pretty awesome now, but like maybe there's a little kind of like extra like half percentage I can raise up by doing it like this instead of this.
Sure. Nope. Makes perfect sense. So you were diagnosed and or realized that your mind worked differently than a lot of people's when you were young. What was that like for you as a kid? Was it hard? Did you adapt to it right away? Like, how did it go for you?
Well, initially, I guess it was kind of confusing because I mean, when I was like about 3, 4 years old max, when this like first started happening, and I first was being taken into like strange rooms I didn't recognize that were like specialist offices of like I guess psychological practitioners. And I remember like being put in like weird boxes or something. I don't know. It's such like foggy memories from that age. Um, but I had no sense of that my mind worked differently from anyone else's because I was like way too young and immature to be able to like kind of really put effort into like thinking about how other people worked. So I'm just like, this is how I work. It can't be like that different from how everyone else works. We might have like different wants and desires or whatever, but like we've kind of like, got to have the same kind of like base level like programming, I guess. And no, that was not the case. And that was why I was being taken around and everywhere else. And so at that point, it didn't like really, it wasn't that weird for me. I remember like my dad, I mean, both my parents were doctors, so they had like practice like bedside manner, I guess, and how to like kind of deal with patients. And so, and they were also good parents. So like they were coming at from multiple angles of expertise. And I remember being like 4 years old, and my dad would take me into the pantry, where like I guess like the treats were, and be like, "Okay, every day I'm going to take you in here and give you like one treat and this like little tablet of I don't know what it was, but it was for my OCD, I guess, so that I wouldn't like freak out over whatever I was freaking out about." And yeah, so it very sort of it was, I was kind of eased into it, and then I kind of like and then kind of I guess went dormant for a bunch of years until I got to like uh, I guess almost middle school and was going through weird, I guess like, you know, almost everyone's like going through weird stuff when they're like 11, 12, like puberty age or whatever. And so that kind of like saw a massive resurgence of the OCD in particular. And then it was very weird because that's also the age where a lot of kids are looking for anything um I guess weird about the people around them to avoid like having to deal with all the stuff that's weird going on inside them. And so I was like a very easy target and like very easy, like, oh, that's an oddity. Let's maybe give that some space. I was lucky I didn't get like a lot of like real like consistent bullying, and eventually when people got to know me, like they were like very accepting, and like they were 12, 13 year olds like doing their best to understand me and relate to me, and I'm really grateful for how lucky I was to be in that kind of environment. But yeah, it was very weird, and I did feel bad and ill at ease, and I felt like I should be I shouldn't be this weird. I've got to be like more normal, and it also kind of led me to I guess suppress some other aspects of myself. I remember thinking, okay, I'm always already past the limit of weird. Um, and that made me even more scared because I'm not in my experience at that point, I hadn't heard a ton of people talk about mental health stuff. I didn't feel like I was seeing a ton of mental health representation in the world, but what I was seeing a lot of was like queer representation, which is cool, but it always kind of like taught me that, if you're queer, you're going to have a way harder time of getting through life. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can't like, like be out like that. At the same time, I'm dealing with like being out as like OCD and stuff. That's gonna make everything exponentially worse. And so I really suppressed that, and that wasn't like good either. So all these things kind of compounded until like, I kind of had to start learn to accept all the parts of myself and make them into a cohesive being.
Got it. So what's the difference between queer and gay?
Um, I feel like if you ask like 10 different queer people, you'll get like seven different answers. Um, I'm very like, I like language being kind of like loose and you know idiosyncratic. I tend to use the terms like pretty broadly and almost interchangeably. I guess the narrowest definition of gay would be like homosexual, and queer is any sort of deviation from the norm of gender or sexuality. Um, I'm I guess that's kind of like the like simplest way to put it, at least the way I think of it. Um, in my case, it means I'm kind of attracted to like capable of being attracted to any gender. And in my personal case, and this is something I've kind of been more comfortable with saying uh, in the last few years. Now that I know that like it's something that everyone can understand, I don't have to like go on a huge like ramble about it. But when I said I was non-binary, it's because I kind of gender is not a thing that is I don't have like a sort of real sense of. I don't really like see it. It's not like people can tell me about it, and so I accept what they say. But it's not something I really like perceive in the world. It's like kind of like being, I don't know, like some people can't see colors, some people can't like smell things. Gender is kind of like that for me. So so I guess if anything, I just feel like kind of transcendent of gender, and so I don't feel like I'm like man or woman or any particular thing. I can just be all of it or whatever. I feel like I'm James, and anything else is open to interpretation. And now people kind of have a more people have an understanding, at least like in a sort of directional sense of what non-binary means. So now I can just say non-binary instead of spending like 5 minutes saying what I just said. So yeah, now I'm way more comfortable saying non-binary than I used to be.
Got it. When, so you had talked about kind of recognizing that. I think you said like in middle school years, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
And you also said that you recognized at that stage in your life, you weren't real comfortable talking about it because you already recognized that, um, the way you processed the world was probably different and it was going to make it harder for you. At what point did you decide you could talk about that, and who was the first person you talked about it with?
Hmm. It's funny. I don't have like a specific memory of like the first conversation or anything. What I do remember is like even before the sort of like weird middle school stuff, even in grade school, I was picked on for a while because I was like not like a typical boy. I also went to an all boys school for most of my early education,
Hmm.
which was like kind of extra awkward because a lot of them were like pretty like traditional, like I don't know, um, like like masculine dudes, and I just definitively was not. So all these times I was like, everyone around me was telling me I was a boy, but I was bad at being a boy. And then like as soon as I kind of realized, no, like it doesn't need to be like that kind of binary, it became a bit easier. But I had like a few friends, a few close friends who were also a bit kind of like uh off of the like straight and narrow norm, and we always had like very like close open friendships. And so I basically talked to this one guy in particular, Mark. I remember just like talking about him with him about like everything I was going through all the time. So he must have been the first person I kind of like talked about this stuff in, I guess, more explicit terms with. But it's not
Got it.
not anything I could hide either. I guess for a while I just didn't like talking about it openly.
Sure, that makes sense. And so, did Mark share similar thoughts and experiences that you had? Was that why you talked with him, or
He was, I'd say he was like one of his main attributes, one of his like main things that he was like that he lived and breathed was being open-minded about everything, and including himself. So he would kind of explore parts of himself too, and like he was kind of open to like whatever he was going to be, and he didn't like putting, I guess, limits on himself or anybody. So he was a really good person to talk about that stuff with.
got it? Well, so and look, this is a great conversation. I won't interrupt it. I really appreciate your willingness to talk about it because I think there's probably a lot of folks out there that aren't as comfortable. And I think you can do a lot of good for them by being so willing and so open and sharing your perspective on it. So I really appreciate you being willing to come on and talk about it for what it's worth. Um, with that said, um, how did you deal with the anxiety? When did you learn to deal with like the anxiety? I know you talked a little bit about the OCD, but anxiety is something that I think a lot of people experience. How did you learn to kind of manage through your life with that? Because it sounds like it caused you problems for a while and you feel like you're dealing with it much better now. What did that process look like for you?
So the biggest thing I think was like for so long I just wanted to turn it off and just be like a happy person or whatever. And I realized that I can't just like extinguish anxiety. Like no matter what I do, it's always going to be there in some way. There's always going to be this like little demonic voice like pestering me and telling me I suck and I'm awful and I'm not worth anything. And I can't, mute it, right? I can't kill it. I can't even argue with it because that's just going to feed it. So what I had to do was focus on the voice inside me, which I consider my true voice. That's saying, no, this is what I am. This is what I want to do. This is what I think I'm worth. And just practice making that voice louder. And so now I just focus on that voice as much as I can. And even when the demonic voice is in my head telling me all this negative stuff, I'm just going to shout over it and pay attention to that shout and just keep doing what I want to do anyway. And the other way I look at it is like, if the anxiety is going to be there anyway, it's going to be there whether I do the thing I'm anxious about or don't do the thing. And if I don't do the thing I want to do, then I'm just going to be sitting there with my anxiety. If I do the thing I want to do, then I might be anxious while I'm doing the thing I want to do, or I might get so wrapped up in the thing I'm doing that I want to do that I don't even remember the anxious voices there for like, I don't know, an hour a day at a time. You know what I mean? And so it's like, even if there's no perfect solution, the better solution is almost always to do the thing I want to do and not pay attention to the anxiety holding you back.
I love it. So that's one of the things we talk about a lot on the podcast is that taking action is almost always one of the solutions to dealing with your problems, right? I don't even know if problem is the right way to say it, but whatever it is that you're nervous or anxious or worried about, taking action is almost always the best way to help you get through it, past it, over it, whatever you want to talk about. So, do you think that music and performing I'm trying to think of the right way to ask you this. Do you think that music and performing are helpful from that, or do you think that they provided an outlet? Do you think you were attracted to music and performing as a way to manage through your anxiety and kind of put yourself out there?
No, I know that's not why I was attracted to them
Hmm.
because I was like hugely passionate about them. Like when I was just like before I was dealing with any of this stuff, at least like long term, you know what I mean? Like, after the sort of OCD and stuff went dormant for a while when I was like, I guess in like around kindergarten, early grade school, I still love the performing stuff. But what I have realized about performing is that it's basically one of the, if not the only time when I can feel like completely in the present moment. Like usually I'm in the present, but I'm also in the past and the future and like all times and places. But when I'm performing, like what'll often happen, even if I'm like having a really anxious, like bad mental health day, like within like a minute of like stepping on stage and like singing into the microphone, like all of that just like ceases to exist and I'm just in the motion and the act of performing music. And I feel like everyone should try to find something that makes them feel like that, even if it's just for like a minute at a time, because it is beautiful. I feel like I could never get into meditation. I'm far too restless. I did try when I was a kid. I tried getting into Buddhist stuff when I was about like 13 and really dealing with the mental health stuff, but I couldn't make it work for me. But I feel like performing is what makes me feel like that.
Yeah, I'm chuckling because I'm trying to picture you trying to meditate. I think that would probably be funny to watch.
I look cool doing it. I'm just like in my head. I'm just like having the same like weird crazy thoughts I'm always having.
No, yeah, you're just a high energy guy. I just
Yeah.
I find it comical to picture you trying to meditate. I do. So Uh,
Well, I remember this one time you're not the only one. I remember one time I got kicked out of class for I don't know being a brat in like grade 7 or something, and the like vice principal like found me like on the bench outside in like the lotus position, and he was like, "What are you doing? Why are you not in class?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I gotta do something."
oh, that's funny.
And that
What?
got me in more trouble.
Yeah, right. You're so OCD. Did that manifest itself in particular behaviors? I've heard people talk about like whatever, washing their hands a certain number of times or turning light switches on and off. How did OCD manifest itself with you?
Various ways. Like it's kind of been like a recurrent, like or before I kind of got a handle on it, it was kind of like I'd have like spikes, like at various points throughout my life, and every time it'd be like a little different. The big one that like everyone who knew me at that age like remembers, like my family, like especially my brother, like this is like the thing he like remembers like vividly because it was such a big like topic of conversation like all the time in our home at the time was I wasn't scared of like germs. People thought I was, but I was just scared of like sort of some abstract feeling of grossness. Like I didn't care about getting sick or anything. I just felt, oh, this thing for like justifiably or not feels gross to me, so I'm going to avoid it. And like I guess it kept like that kind of obsession kept like creeping in and like narrowing what I like felt was acceptable in how I lived and what I did, and it did become like a kind of a constant source of turmoil and anxiety and just uh, ill ease with the rest of the world. And yeah, like even my friendships and stuff, like sometimes my friends had like a lot of patience to deal with it, and sometimes even they were like, okay, we can't invite James today because he's just gonna like freak out about something. And so
It's
yeah,
good that
yeah.
yeah, it's good that you had a friend group that was cognizant of that and helped you work through it. That's great.
Yeah, and but I'm gonna be honest, and I don't recommend this at all, which is like I'm almost like hesitant to say it, but I got kicked out of one school around that time and sent to another school with people who just like I don't know, I made a really bad first impression and they had like no patience for me, and so I got a bit of bullying there, and the like stress of having to deal with all of that just left no room in my mind for OCD. So my OCD went kind of dormant for another couple of years there because I just had no room to like pay attention to it. But that again, that's not sustainable. That's not like a way to get over it. And it came back a few years later. And the big thing I remember is like there was one spring a few years later where I just like I kept counting glasses, like how many glasses were in a room, at home and stuff. And like I didn't trust my counts, so I keep counting again. And then like hours would go by and like I'd miss dinner because I was just like counting glasses, and my dad would be like, "What is going on? You haven't done your homework." Um, so yeah, that was another big one that was like memorable to me.
Got it. Yeah, I don't have any experience with it, and I've seen things on it, but it's always like some like Hollywood version. You know what I mean? So like in a real world version, I find it interesting to just kind of understand a little bit better. How often do you guys perform? How often does Hot Apollo perform in front of an audience?
I'd say right now probably like a couple times a month, once or twice a month at least. I'd say.
Yep. And then how much do you practice in between gigs?
Like we practice regularly, like at least once a week. And we're also kind of we're working on recording our third album right now, so that's also kind of front of mind.
Nice. What's that process like recording an album?
Um, it's kind of different between albums. For this last one, it's kind of been. Well, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I'm not in the room with the rest of the musicians while they're they've been doing this album. Like in the past, some of the stuff we've recorded, we've been doing it live off the floor or like in the same studio or whatever. Um, but this one, we're kind of doing some more complex stuff. So it's just kind of we're doing it wherever and whenever we can. So often, like I'm not going to be in the room and with the guitarist. Well, he's because he has his own setup at home. I go out. Vocals are the hardest to record, and our producer has this like cool like beachfront property, like a kind of like an hour outside the city. So when I go out to there, I go out. I spend the night there and just you know, fell into his like studio mic 4 hours on end. And the guitarist was just like, nah, I can do this at home. I've got it set up. And so I was like, all right, cool for you. You save so much time.
So in that process, then, so the guitarist will record their stuff or do their sessions and tweak their things. Same for the drummer, same for you as the singer. And then does the producer make the final call on how it all goes together? Do you guys do that collectively, or what's that like?
Yeah, he'll like kind of he has really good instincts, which is why I've been working with him for all of our full length albums. He knows exactly what we're after. So what he'll do is like he'll kind of like put all our like tracks together and make sort of mix, and he'll like send it to us and be like, okay, what do you guys think? And almost always he like knocks it out of the park right away, like done in one. And then he'll just like, okay, cool, just gotta master it. We're yeah, we don't tend to need to give him a ton of notes.
Got it.
Oh, and
And
I just shout him out actually. Scotty Comer, Kohmer. If anyone is looking for a producer, I highly recommend. Even if you're not in Canada, I think you can like send your stuff to him, and he'll mix his stuff up. He's brilliant. Yeah, highly recommend.
that's great. And I was just going to say, I think you're in Toronto. Isn't that right? Are you
That's
outside of
right. Yeah,
Toronto? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I forgot to mention that. And it's funny because we did an episode with a guy named Emmanuel who runs a martial arts studio in Toronto. And so we've got a lot of folks from Toronto that are coming on the
Oh, nice.
podcast. So yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what the studio is called? I actually go to martial arts classes in the city.
Yeah, it's actually called Fight Club.
Okay.
What studio do you go to?
I go to a place called Bamboo Kung Fu. It's a third studio I've tried out, and I love it. Like I took first two were very good, but not like great fits for me personally. And this last one is just incredible. Like the dude who runs it is like a world like martial arts champion for like decades, and he's just like teaching like anyone off the street who wants to spend time with him what he knows. And he's not just like martial arts, but he's also like great at like fighting mechanics. He's an incredible dude, like actual genius. And like it's like $25 a class. It's like for the person he is, it's so cheap. It's crazy. So big shout out to Bamboo Kung Fu too. He also does like online classes. Like you can, if you're like in another part of the world, you can just like zoom in, and like do it from home.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing martial arts classes?
Well, this recently, okay, so I wanted to get back into it around like 2022, and then I was with one place for a while. That lasted about 6 months. Next one, I think I started that summer, and then I was doing that for a couple of years. And then a friend I met in the community was just like, "Hey, you should check out this one." And like, I went in for one class. They have like a free trial. I'm like, "Okay, I'm hooked." I'm like, every week I'm there. And like, I mean, I'm not the best student in the class, but like, I am there. Like, I'm the one person who's there like every week. Occasionally, I'll even be like the only person in the class. I'll get like a free like one-on-one lesson. It's crazy. Um, but before that, when I was a kid, I did like karate and judo for a while. I never like pursued it very far, but like I had like that sort of like base level of like kind of like 101 knowledge.
Did you enjoy it when you were a kid?
Um, kind of, but uh, my problem when I was a kid, and that it took me a long time to get over, was I don't love being told what to do, and so I have to kind of I couldn't get my head around that back then enough to stick with it. I felt like even though I chose to do it, I felt like I was also being forced to do it, and eventually I realized like I have to kind of like if I choose to do something, especially like learning, I've got to just like put all that aside and just be like, okay, I'm here to learn, like empty vessel, like come into me. And that was like really hard to learn, especially when I was a kid. Eventually I got over it, but it took like way too long. So now I'm in a very good place to learn martial arts. Back then, not as much. Also, the like sort of ADD-ishness didn't help either.
I bet. I find it very easy to believe you don't like to be told what to do. I find that very easy to believe. So, um, what attracted you to martial arts? Like, why'd you get back into it? What was it about it that made you want to go again?
Hmm. Um, I think part of it was just kind of like it's I guess an aesthetic consideration. It's just like it's a very beautiful, like sort of very beautiful and diverse forms of movement, and just like learning how like different ways to move the body was very attractive to me, especially as a performer. But yeah, just different ways like to think about like how your body works, and that was really cool to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think it's helped you with your performance on stage? Has it made you better as a performer?
I don't know. Um, Probably not yet, but it's funny. Like just yesterday, I was at class, and my friend's like, or well, one of my classmates was like, "Hey, I just realized you have the long hair and you do kung fu. Like you're like David Lee Roth." And he was telling me about this like music video he'd seen where like David Lee Roth was like doing kung fu moves in his video, and I had not realized that, but now I'm gonna like go back and look at it to see if I recognize what he's doing now.
I
So yeah,
absolutely
maybe.
remember
And
that.
that dude, yeah, that dude's
Yeah.
like an amazing performer, like really an inspiration. Um, so yeah, I think there probably is some overlap.
Yeah. In the video for Van Halen's song Jump, he's absolutely doing martial arts moves in that video, without a doubt.
Okay, that's the one. And I've got to take another look at that. Awesome.
Yep. Yeah. I when I was what was I was 12 and I had Van Halen 1984 t-shirt, their album 1984. It had a picture of a little angel smoking a cigarette on it. I had that t-shirt when I was a kid. I still remember wearing that t-shirt around. Um, on the uh, bio that you submitted, you said that you are the becoming the best version of yourself you've ever been. Where do you think the biggest improvement has been in your life from your perspective? What's the best now compared to where it was previously? Where have you made the most progress?
I would say realizing how like mental health and physical health improve each other. Um, because like the lowest point I was talking about, like I remember like my mental stuff was like so bad that like it was basically like eating up like so much of my time and mental energy. Like it was distracting me from even like basic human needs like eating and sleeping. Like I just like I'd be so like wrapped up in like the craziness in my head that like I wasn't like paying attention to any of that stuff. I was just like completely lost, and it was taking a physical toll on my body too. And like eventually I got to a point where like I uh I was starting to be like unable to move without pain. And I went to see a doctor, well, several doctors, but finally one was like, okay, no, like before you see like a psychologist or anything, you need to see like a nutritionist and like a trainer because like your body is like it has, it doesn't have like enough anything to support itself. You're like it's bad. You're in a bad state, dude. Like I've seen like 80-year-olds who are healthier than you. Um, and so like okay, I've got to be serious about this. And so that I and then so I saw some people who like kind of helped me just like, across the board, and like uh I realized as I was focusing on healing my body and doing all this like physiotherapy and stuff, it was giving me something to focus on, and that kind of helped to detract or helped to distract from the mental issues. And then when I kind of got to a stable place with my body, I could um address the mental stuff more effectively. And like, I kind of eventually realized it was getting easier and easier. Not like the mental issues disappeared, but that just that I was like better at approaching them and working through them. And I realized, and this is probably stuff like that it's like basing on to other people, but it took me way too long to learn, is that yeah, when you're yeah, your mental stuff can affect your body stuff. But when your body's at a very like low physical point, like your brain is gonna like start working less efficiently, and it's gonna be more prone to like bugs and errors and stuff. And so when you like make your body healthier, like your brain chemistry has like a way better chance of kind of getting smoother. And then so like eventually I kind of like started a sort of positive like feedback loop, a virtuous cycle in myself. And that freed me to just like uh shoot like up way better and sustainably than I had before.
Got it. So that's interesting because most of the things I have heard talk about the mental being necessary to overcome the physical, but you were in a situation where because you had allowed your physical health to deteriorate for so long, you had to fix that first, and it helped your mental health improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, both help each other. I want to be clear. Like I'm not like a psychologist or anything. I'm not like an expert
Yeah, we get that.
in these fields. I'm just like someone who's like lived my own life. Um, but yeah, like it is possible that like if I'd like seen the right like therapist or whatever at the time, I might have been able to make more progress than I was. But like the fact of the matter is, it still would have been way harder if I didn't like help my body too. And so I just realized that I personally cannot um extricate those things from each other. It needs to be cohesive.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It makes perfect sense. I know you had talked about your dad giving you some type of medication along with a treat. Do you
Yeah.
take medication regularly, or is it have you regulated your stuff through uh, mental health, exercises, nutrition, those kind of things?
Yeah, no, currently I'm not on medication. Um, when I did take them as a kid, it honestly, like middle school, I remember I was given them and it didn't work. And that might have been because I didn't want it to work. Like at the time, I was like very attached to my OCD and I was protecting it, even though I knew it was like making my life harder. Um, but I didn't want to make the medication work. And fortunately, in my adult life, I've been able to uh, work on things without medication. But that said, I know that everyone is not that lucky. Some people have like way worse brain or like way more problematic brain chemistry than I do, and they need external help with that. And so I totally believe in that too. Like people very close to my life are like that, and I support them in that. So I'm very pro medication, but luckily I have not needed. I also have epilepsy, and a lot of people take medication for that. I learned how to regulate my body in a way that I guess was enough for the level of epilepsy I have, so I don't have seizures anymore, or at least like very rarely. But yeah, in the same thing, like not everyone has that luxury. Some people have it like a lot worse than I do, so they need that like extra kind of boost.
Mm. Do you do you remember how old you were when you knew you had epilepsy or they diagnosed you with epilepsy?
That I remember all too vividly because it messed up my sleep so much. Basically, the onset was about puberty, and after that, like no matter how much I cared about like school, I mean, I'm never the best student, but there's some classes I loved, and I keep falling asleep in them. And like I'm not like a sleepy dude. I don't like to sleep. I like to be moving around and stuff and engaged. But some of my teachers would kind of like lower the lights to like have a more intimate atmosphere, and I just like fall asleep like instantly without any control. And a lot of my teachers were like, "Oh, you're just you don't care, you're a bad student, whatever." And they even when I was in sixth grade, they're like, "Okay, you have special dispensation to bring a large cup of coffee to your desk. No one else is allowed drinks in the class. You are drink your fucking coffee, don't fall. Sorry, um, drink your coffee, don't fall asleep." and it didn't work. I just fall asleep with like a three-quarters full cup of coffee. And then finally, I was put into hospital when I was 17 for a heart issue. I was there for 6 weeks on bed rest at the end of summer vacation. I hated it. But they're like, "Well, we have you here. Let's run some tests to figure out if there's anything that could be causing the sleep issue that's like on your medical record, despite the fact we have no diagnosis for it." So they kept me up all night, brought me into like I don't know, like the basement of the hospital at like 6 in the morning, and put me in this like big like tube like an EEG or something. And they realized, oh yeah, no, there's like crazy like seizure activity in your brain. You have epilepsy. The reason you fall asleep so much is because your brain isn't while you're like physically sleeping, your brain is having all these seizures, these mini seizures while you're sleeping, so you're not actually rested. And so then when I kind of got back to school after that, it was much easier to deal with because I kind of knew how I needed to approach it. Um, and then about a year later, I had my first like grand mal seizure, and that was rough. And I didn't know how to stop those from going on for a long time, for years. And then finally, I guess around the same time I was dealing with the whole mental body cohesion thing, I realized if I really took care of my sleep cycles, that helped. So just getting enough sleep is kind of what prevents me from having seizures now. I need to be like really like on it, like very disciplined, but I can manage now.
Got it. How many hours a night do you need for it to be like optimal? What's optimal sleep for you?
I figured out if I get like about 7, 8, maybe even a little more, 5 days a week, I'm pretty good. And then if I get like on the weekends, I can get by like 3 to 5, without having negative consequences. So that's kind of where I am now. Especially like weekends when my band does all the shows, so I've got to be up late for that. yeah,
I
during the
was going to
week, like,
say that, yeah, because you've got to be a late night guy to do what
yeah,
you do, right?
yeah. When I think when I like when we like go on tour or something, I'll probably I know it's a lot of bands go on tours with like 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 a support team or whatever, and so I'll probably need like I guess like a like some sort of support team around me when I go on tour. But yeah, right now it's pretty easy, and I'll make it work however I need to going forward.
Got it. So, what do you guys, does Hot Apollo have goals? Is it about making the music? Do you want to become commercially successful? Where do you want to go with Hot Apollo?
We all love making music, and I want to push it as far as possible. Um, I want, I feel like we've kind of got the destiny of being like the biggest rock band of the age, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. But I've got to be honest, if like no one ever uh like hears our name and I go to my deathbed, having like never made like a cent off music, I can still be proud of having made some amazing art that I'm proud of, and I'll still feel a sense of fulfilling the purpose I was put on this planet to do. That said, though, I do want to be big, rich, and famous.
I love it. I love it.
I
That's
want
great
how to,
stuff.
yeah, I want how to be like a multimedia sensation, man. I want comic books, action figures, cartoons, whatever. You know,
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Where do you look, I'm 53, so I'm a dinosaur. And back when I was a kid, you went to the record store and bought albums, and now everything is everywhere. What's the primary vehicle you guys use to get your music out in front of people? Is it through the music industry? Is it on YouTube? Is it another platform? Where, like, how do you get it out to people in today's
I
environment?
mean, yeah, it's easy. Like you can look up Hot Apollo on Spotify, Bandcamp, Apple, SoundCloud, literally any music service. We're there. Like even like Deezer. I don't even know what Deezer is, but we're on Deezer. You can find it. And yeah, YouTube. We have a lot of like we are very visual too, so we have a lot of really cool music videos. If you only see one, I recommend Fistigons. There's a dinosaur in it, like as a sort of visual storytelling medium. That is like the music video I'm most proud of. Fistigons by Hot Apollo.
Who does your choreography for those? How do you put the show together? We talked about the music.
Um,
We haven't talked about the show.
yeah, I kind of handle a lot of that stuff. For some of the videos, we worked with some pretty cool directors who have ideas too. So those I really love how the collaborative processes on those have turned out.
Got it.
Pentagon's was a lot of fun because like I was recommended this one director, and I barely even spoken to him, but as soon as I pitched him my idea, he instantly knew what I was talking about. I didn't even have to explain it to him. He's like, okay, no, I got you. This is like our kind of our souls were on the same frequency for that one, and I was so elated.
Nice. It's always
Yeah.
nice when you kind of vibe with someone like that. That's always
Mhm.
useful. How many people are in Hot Apollo?
Four. Me, a guitarist, Dan, bassist Julian, and our drummer Ben.
Got it. And how did you guys get together? How'd you meet?
Um, I don't remember how I met Ben. Um, I think someone recommended Ben to me, and Julian was someone I met like on like a queer community events like app. And like yeah, he just like posted a thing like looking like saying he was a bassist. I'm like, oh cool, we need a bassist.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's also how I met our former rhythm guitarist March, who had to move across the country. But still very cool uh, person, and we remember them fondly. And now they're working on the other side of music. They're like in like a rock radio station out in like Halifax or something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
yeah. It's just a bit annoying to our guitarist because now he has to pick up like rhythm and lead. But he's a genius, so
Yeah.
he can do it. You know.
Yeah. That's good. Um, so, one of the things we do on the show too uh, is there anything I haven't asked you about that you want to make sure our listeners hear? Or is there any subjects that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure we get in front of our listeners?
I think we've covered a lot, especially since I'm quite digressive. So I'm pretty happy with how it's going. And I just checked my phone battery, and it's not incredibly robust right now. So I don't want to go on too much longer. But yeah, no, this was a ton of fun.
No, it's been great. And like one of the what we do on the podcast is we want to expose our listeners to a lot of different viewpoints and let them hear from people directly how they've handled the challenges that they've had in their lives. Because I talk about things that I've had gone wrong and how I've handled it. That might work for some people, might not work for some people. Your way might work for some people, not work for some people. But the more different viewpoints we can expose people to, we feel like the better off our audience is. And I think you bring some unique things to the table in that you had challenges from a very young age, and you've had lots of different opportunities and different ways to overcome those. And I think it's been great that you're willing to come on and be so candid about those and share those with our listeners. So,
Yeah, it's very yeah. Like there's no like one size fits all approach, but like if
yep.
you keep trying, you'll find a way that works for you.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And we will include the links to Hot Apollo in our show notes to make sure that folks can find you guys, whether it
Yeah,
be just the musical medium or the visual medium. It sounds to me, I'm going to go check out your video because I did not ahead of our podcast, but I'm very curious now to see some of your videos on YouTube because I want to see the full thing. I don't just want to hear the music. I want to see the show as
yeah,
well. You know what I mean?
yeah. And also, people can reach out to me. Tell me what you think. I'm always open to input, good, bad, whatever. And yeah, tell people about it. Tell your friends, your enemies, your mothers, your fathers, your dogs, everyone. Dogs vibe with our music hard.
I love it. Well, James,
Yeah,
thanks so much for coming on the
yeah.
podcast.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed talking to you.
And I say this from the bottom of my heart. Check out this cool stick I just found. Isn't that beautiful? Anyway,
You're
thanks
the
very
first
much.
person we've interviewed in a park. So you've
Awesome.
you're a trendsetter on
Yeah,
Salty Ginger Talk.
got my tree office.
Yeah. Yeah. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right. Well, great talking to
office.
you. Have a great week.
Likewise. Thanks.
Thanks, James. Okay, guys. So heard a bunch of interesting stuff from James there. Talked about the challenges he faced as a young man. Talked about kind of opening up to his friend Mark when he realized that he was non-binary. Talked about his parents helping him through challenges as a young man with OCD, with anxiety, with various things. Clearly a high energy guy. I know that most of our guests are in one spot when they do the podcast, and James was in a park. And so I know the camera can be a little bit challenging. Appreciate you guys' patience with that, but we think James's message is very important. Talked about his band, Hot Apollo, and we're going to include links to that band in the show notes as well. So I think there's a lot of things we can learn from James. Appreciate him being willing to come on and be so candid about the things that he had to deal with as a young man and how he's kind of worked through those things to get himself to a really good spot in life. So really appreciate him coming on the podcast and being willing to share those things with us. Don't forget to head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. James puts it up over here every day. We've got all of our podcast episodes available there. We've got links to all our social media accounts there. We've got a newsletter that we publish every weekday. You can subscribe to there. And please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our podcast, whatever platform you consume it on. So, really appreciate you checking out the episode. We're going to continue to bring you new and interesting people to hear about their experiences. I think there's a ton of value in hearing from all sorts of different people, all different walks of life, and all different challenges that they faced. And I really appreciate you guys checking it out. We'll see you on the next episode.